And so I was looking at it, and I was looking at my career path, and I'm thinking about, the future. At the time, I was probably, around 40, 47, 48. So I still had many years in my career left. So there's going to be more depressions. There's going to be more economic downfalls in the future. What do I need to do? What makes me happy? And what do I want to do? And the thing I realize is that food service is always my first love, and being around food and having developing programs with food and stuff like that. That is the thing I always like the most. So I kind of identified that. Then I started looking at all the segments, whether it be fast food to hotels, whatever. I was looking at all the different segments, trying to understand what was going on in the marketplace. And then I kind of stumbled into healthcare and reading articles from the government and other organizations, realizing that with what's going on with the baby boomers, that industry was only going to keep growing. There would be no turning back. And regardless of the economy, hospitals have to stay open. People have to be fed. Senior living has to keep going on because people have to have a place where they can go if they don't want to live at home, or they don't have someone to take care of them as they get older. That's never going to change. And so how it looks will change, but that market is never going to go away. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I've never been in it. And as a matter of fact, when I was in school, just to be quite blunt with everybody, the idea of going into institutional food service was the furthest thing from my mind. As a matter of fact, there was a little bit when I was in school at the time, just to show you our arrogance of not understanding. At the time, we thought the people that went into institutional food service was like the bottom part of the class, guys that couldn't cut it in the restaurant and hotel world. So they went to go into what was called then institutional. Now it's called non-commercial. And so that never entered my head that I was going to go in those worlds. And so in 2008, or actually this is 2007, a job was open in a town I was living at the time with a contractor called Morrison's, part of the Compass Group, largest food service contractor in the world, at a hospital near me, and they need an executive chef. So here it is, 2007 at the end of it, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I haven't been a chef in a long time. I had my own restaurant, I was a chef instructor, but I had been in management, and I was in development, and I was doing projects like that. So, but at the same time, it was a small hospital, so I'm like, it's literally 3/4 of a mile from where I was living. And so I went in and I met the director, who's a very, very nice guy, and I said, look, I just want to introduce myself, tell you who I am. I saw your post in the job. I had no idea if I'm qualified for this or not. I've never worked in a hospital. I didn't want to waste his time and my time if this was not going to be a go. So when he understood what was going on and he understood what my background was, he was like, please apply for the job. So I'm like, okay. So I applied for it and I got the job. And so I became the executive chef in a hospital. Never been in a hospital. I mean, I don't even like visiting hospitals, and I became the executive chef at a Morrison account. And, so the first few months was a lot of observation just to understand the industry. And then, of course, when you're in operations, as long as I had been in, it doesn't matter what space you're in, you see opportunities to streamline and to make things better and improve food quality and the experience for the staff and your audience. And so, a few months later, I actually had an opportunity to interview for a job as a director at a hospital campus outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was a 250-bed hospital. I had a 25-bed behavioral health building in a separate building, and I had a 100-bed nursing home across the street, which was a brand new building. And of course, all the catering and everything that went into it. So to make a long story short, one thing you realize about hospitals, they're very similar to hotels in that you got retail situations, you have lots of catering, you have room service, right? Because you're bringing trays up to the patient rooms. It's a similar type technique, situation. And I've been on many projects since then where it's a true hotel style room service at this point, where the patient can call down at any time and order stuff from the menu. And so that's how I got into it. And then from there, like I said, I had a nursing home, so I got exposed to senior living like right out of the gate, and I did a bunch of projects there. And so I kind of realized with my hospitality background that healthcare was a really good fit for me, and it was a huge opportunity career-wise, and that I had something to offer. And as a matter of fact, the CEO that interviewed me at this hospital, this is what he said to me, and I'm saying this because the audience needs to know that there are people out here that think like this, because Morrison had sent in a whole bunch of people to be interviewed by this guy, and they were, people that were already in hospital accounts in the greater Charlotte area. They wouldn't have to move anybody. It would have been a cheap move, right? And they were trying to move people up, and I was brand new, basically, the company. But the reason I got that job is because I had hospitality background. And as soon as I sat down in that conference room with the CEO and the HR person and what became my client, the vice president, her name was Sandy Butler, and we sat down and he goes, "You know why you're here right now?" He goes, "I have no idea why." And he's like, "It's because you're a hotel guy. I want to meet the hotel guy." And that's exactly why I got the job. He did not want an institutional minded person taking the job of food service, because he knew that food service was very important to his operation.
He wanted to get that hotel mentality, yes, that hospitality into it.
Exactly. So the moral of the story for everybody listening to this is that hospitals and senior living communities, they love restaurant and hotel, particularly hotel people, because I think the hotel people are more relatable to a lot of things. Not that a restaurant person couldn't do it, don't get me wrong. But when you learn food and beverage in a hotel or a resort, you're going to see all these similarities in these different communities, in these hospitals and stuff. Where your talent can improve the scene at these places. So it was a very valuable lesson to me, and as a result, I ended up becoming a consultant. And I stayed with Morrison for a certain amount of time. I'm not somebody I don't particularly want to work for a big company, to be honest with you, that environment. And so it was an easy move for me to say, I want to become a consultant. Didn't know what that looked like. And I ended up working for one of the largest consulting companies in the United States that was strictly focused in healthcare. And so I got to be with them for about 4 years and traveling around the country doing projects. And what it taught me is that industry segment, both those segments, both the acute care side and the senior living side, need a lot of help. They're open to things. If you can find owners or operators that get the hospitality model and know they have to have it, you're going to get along great with people like that. There's still some people that are, I would call, old school, that really haven't changed with the times yet, but they're becoming less and less frequent. That model is really dying off. So it's going away.